Kokone. Hello, hello. Wait. Just realized, my chat's not working for some reason. Oh wait, is it? Yeah, it's not working. Huh? Wait, hold on, chat. Hold on. Why aren't you working? Refresh. Nope. Wait. Hello? Where are you? Shut the... Okay, hold on. I'm gonna make you all anew. Just wait a moment. just give me a moment. This is starting off great. This is chat 2.0. Okay. You're all here. Let me copy over the CSS. Paste. There we are. There we go. Here you all are. You're gonna be very tiny though. You're gonna be very tiny today. Have you missed this overlay? It's been a while, hasn't it? We have chat anxiety, I guess. Yes. I have stream anxiety, I have GM anxiety, and now chat has chat anxiety. But you're here now. Welcome. So today we are going over something I'm not very confident I could go over, but there are a few things that have helped me. As you know, I have did 6 tabletop RPG sessions on stream, all available for your viewing as a VOD in my channel, and and so I think it's pretty safe to say that I may be able to help or assist people who are interested in being a DM on Dungeons and Dragons, or like a keeper in Call of Cthulhu, or a general game master in any other systems. Anxiety? Me? No way. But so hopefully I could give any sort of helpful tips for those who are curious, and maybe even get you to want to try it out yourself. So how to get over GM anxiety, but a GM who still gets stage fright every time. These are things that personally have helped me. Not to say that these are the most correct, not to say that I am the best or well experienced GM, but these are certain things that helped me as someone who does experience a lot of performance anxiety, anxiety in general, to want to get out of my shell and do the DMing, the KPing, or the GMing, whatever you may wish to call it. So hopefully we could go through all these slides, and I will try to make like a short form available in a video format, so that other people who are curious but don't want to sit through, perhaps 1 or 2 hours of me rambling, will get like a short like Spark Notes version of this as well. Yeah, the giving our secrets. I mean, it's not a secret. I think I tried looking up, because I was like, I should do a little bit of research to see what other people say, to see if it aligns, but there wasn't really many videos about this. There's a lot of like beginner DMs and what to do, but like there isn't really sort of like the mental help of like how to like get over the first hurdle of like the fear, Rambling is the best part. We'll see. So hopefully what I will be able to help with in that regard, because yeah, there's not that much about it, which I was also surprised about. I was like, there definitely has to be, because that was the main hurdle for me. It's like not the prepping, but like just the fear, like the fear of your work may perhaps not end up being fun for the players. So hopefully some of these things will help with that. Yeah. The first slide is, accept that you probably won't get rid of ever get rid of that feeling. So, I thought I was here to get rid of it. I will say, it definitely does get lighter, and it definitely does get shorter in terms of that panic feeling, but I've been DMing since 2019. I went back to my first Discord server that I have made. Yeah, you want to see the honk cat? I have made. I went back to the first DMing server that I have made for my friends, and it was back in August of 2019. Is when I first started my Dungeons and Dragons DMing. And then from there, I went to Call of Cthulhu and so on. But it's been very sporadic. It's been very sporadic. So in terms of like actual experience of DMing sessions, I probably only DM like 20 or more or less sessions in those 4 years. Maybe less. I don't know, somewhere around there. I can't count how many sessions I've actually DM'd, but every single time, I get stricken fear of like, did I prepare enough? Did I do everything enough? I'm not ready. but it definitely gets less. So you kind of have to come to terms with that. Okay, I'll feel this right before the session starts, but at least, you know, mentally you're like, okay, I know I have experience. It'll turn out okay-ish. DMO for 10 years, still get nervous, but gets easier. Yeah, like you'll still get nervous. You'll still get that like heart, like wanting to come out of your chest, but you'll still be able to like. It'll get lighter. It'll get much more manageable. So that's the first thing you need to know. Yeah, it goes down by like 0.01% each session. Yes, and sometimes it even jumps up because you realize just how unpredictable your players will be. But let's not get ahead of ourselves right now. So, you have to understand that there is no one right way to DM or GM, whatever. It's like everyone who's in the tabletop RPG scene, especially in the English-speaking side of things, will definitely know Critical Role and Matthew Mercer, and that is the golden stand, like the golden, like I don't know, idealization of like of Dungeons and Dragons for a lot of people, right? I'm not saying all, because there are different playstyles, but because of that, there seems to be a lot of pressure on a lot of new dungeon masters, game masters to kind of emulate and copy what he does to the T. And he's a professional voice actor of like, and he's been a DM since he was a little child, okay? Like, that's not something you compete with. It's definitely not the average. It's definitely not the norm. It's definitely not like it's definitely not even high expectations. That's like unreachable expectations, especially if you're just starting off, okay? like it's unrealistic. And you might not even be someone who's very good at making a narrative campaign. You're not like a narrative story-driven campaign. That's not for everyone. It's, for example, I am not one of those people. I am very, sorry for my language, but shit poor at creating a cohesive narrative that's deep and dramatic and lots of stakes and satisfying for players to be the hero. I'm pretty bad at that, okay? and I know this. So the types of games I usually host are more silly fun, like with lots of gimmicks, with lots of like one-shot type of games where it's not too long. It doesn't take itself too seriously, because I am very bad at serious narrative work. I cannot write out a story that's flexible enough for players to be able to like create their own story with, or be able to create like a very like intertwined world. So you have to figure out what you are comfortable with and kind of stick to that more or less. Like at least figure out what you are, you know, fairly confident that you might be able to do. So whether that be competing with the players in a game of wits, like making puzzles and riddles for your character, then you know what? Why don't you make a mansion that players have to get out of, like escape the room type scenarios? You know, those are certain things. There's not one way to play tabletop RPGs, so there's not one way for you to be a game master. And then that goes hand in hand with communication with the players to set expectations. And for me, that may have consist of lowering their expectations for my own sanity as well. So, you know, if this helps your nerves, calm your nerves, yeah, set their expectations very low, okay? Just be like, hey, like, you know, I'm just a very casual DM, so expect a very casual game. Yeah, like, if I make some mistakes in the rules, please let me know. But like, also, please have patience with me, stuff like that. But in the main part of the communication with the players is set what you both expect from each other, right? If the DM wants to do a competitive, like, I will try to kill you players, and you have to try to live, and that is the goal of this campaign. Then the players have to know, right, that you're going to be out to kill them, so that they have to create their characters in a mindset of like min-maxing. For example, I'm like, okay, here's a D&D one shot, and the whole premise is that you're able to wild magic anime cliches to happen. So, perhaps not, like, perhaps it might be a little difficult to sort of like play out a very serious narrative-driven character due to the fact that the session itself won't be very serious. You know? So, set out the tones, define what the tone will be, define what the players should be expecting, and ask what the players expect as well, and try to find a good middle ground that'll keep you comfortable and keep the players invested in the game, right? You don't want to force your way of DMing onto the players if that's not their style, in which case either you find a middle ground or you find a different set of groups. A different group, you know? You don't have to force yourselves to play with a group that doesn't mesh well. Then it kind of makes the whole experience a very bitter thing, and you don't want to ruin the tabletop RPG fun due to that. But so the first thing you should be doing is communication with the players after you figured out what kind of DM you probably will be the most comfortable being, and what you are capable of doing. And that brings us, and then our next point of view. Wait, actually, anyone have questions so far? Anyone has questions so far? It also makes sure that everyone knows what kind of game it would be, so it does not end with 4 characters made for 4 different types of scenarios. Yes. Like, it also helps to bridge the communication between the players as well, to be like, oh, this is the type of game I want to play, and then the other players are like, wait, but that's not what I signed up for. So it's like communication with the players and making sure the players are also all consistent with each other. How do I recover my sanity after lowering it? Well, in Call of Cthulhu terms, you either have to go to a mental facility, you have to go to, you know, getting therapy, or resting. Actually, I think that translates to real life methods as well. If the GM is truly trying to kill the players, but the GM wins every time, they have infinite resources and are arbiter of the rules. Yes. So, like, you know, it has to be like, that's why I don't do it, because I wouldn't be able to balance it out as well. In my opinion, I'm sure there, like, because like classical D&D is more of like GM versus players, but I never experienced it, so I wouldn't know how that works. To be completely fair, but I know there are people who do enjoy like that more player versus DM type vibe, which unfortunately I cannot give too much advice about. But it's said it like you have to have an end goal, right, for the players to be able to accomplish, so that you know when to end it, and as well as setting like the boundaries for the GM of like difficulty ratings that matches the players. Yeah, and then not giving like a bunch of level 5 newbies an ancient dragon to fight, because then it's obviously going to be on the ancient dragon side, because they could just like flick all the players in one go. So that's the type of things that you would have to communicate with the players in terms of that, if you want to play a more like versus type tabletop RPG. But those are more basic stuff of like, the GM should really know how much a player of their player level and skill is capable of, and not to make it so obviously one-sided. So obviously one-sided, because then you're just like, that's just bullying, okay? Don't bully the players. I mean, bully them in like a subtle way of like, hey, you did this and now you're gonna have to pay for it, you know? The fuck around find out is fine. That sort of bullying, fine. But if it's just bullying for the sake of like, I'm gonna kill the players that you spent 20-30 minutes to an hour creating just for the session, I'm gonna demolish them. I'm gonna pulverize them to a pulp. Like, you just wasted the players like 1 hour of their life with the investment that they made in creating the character, you know? Like, value the player's time, considering that they put trust in you for taking like for their investment, okay? So bullying you style is improved, noted. You know, you should always say that they are like, well, it's not always, it depends on the person, but I always like to say there's consequences for their actions as long as it's reasonable. Setting them up for the real world. Yeah, you know, there's going to be consequences for their actions, or maybe there won't be if they're very lucky. Yeah, but like, you know, if you just kill the players for the sake of it, then you have no one else to blame but yourself, and the players are like, yeah, I'm not gonna play anymore with you, thanks, but no thanks. That kind of went on a tangent about being a good DM instead of getting over the fear of DMing. But next one is accept that you probably won't be able to predict most of what the players will do. This isn't a video game, right? So, but like this may seem counterintuitive to like the fear, because it is a video game, it isn't 100% predictable. They're not playable characters for you as a GM. They're characters with their own free will of the player. But that also means, because you know this, don't really panic that you don't have every detail figured out, because you won't be able to. you won't be able to. No prep will survive contact with players. So, it kind of transitions to the next slide, but you have shit like, why are they casting fireball to a tavern that's full of helpers and critical information? You just kind of have to roll with it sometimes, or and make them pay for their consequences in creative ways. So just be flexible. And this kind of transitions to the next slide of, you don't have to have everything prepared, right? Like, because the players are going to fuck it up, have the players do most of the work for you. Have the players do most of the work for you, because they're the ones that are gonna be messing up and like throwing the course off the rails anyways, okay? Like, basically, I have like little like vague like outlines of what could possibly happen in the back of your brain, but like, you don't have to have it prepared in the nitty-gritty details. If you plan every dungeon, every possible place that they could possibly go to, with the encounters, with all the loot, then, and with all the key, like, with all the NPCs, all the characters that they could possibly go to, all the backstory of those NPCs, then if they don't go to that place, the only person that's going to be disappointed is you, because you know it exists. But then you'll run into the trap of trying to railroad them towards that area when the players aren't even the least bit interested. Yeah, so minimize the work that you have to do. Just have like for me, I usually keep very versatile information about. So for example, with the most recent table D&D one shot, I just knew that there are a few places that are very much like 90% the players will go to, right? It's either the Dragon's Lair or the town around, like the town they start off with, or maybe they will veer off way off course and go to the closest town. So I've set out basic information like the city that they're in. It's one of the capital of that region, like area-ish. So they're a pretty big city. So they'll have basic necessities like if they ever want to go to a tavern or like a weapon shop or like an item shop, they'll have at least some like idea of like, yeah, probably potions, some weapons. I'll throw them in there if they ever go to it, but I won't prepare ahead of time. And then if they want to borrow horses, then I'll be like, oh, there's a stable. There's a stable. It'll cost, and you don't even have to know how much they cost. Okay, you just look at how much the money they have and see how much would they be willing. Like think about how much they would willing to pay for that item, and just say that number. So if they have 2 gold, 20 silver, 3 coppers or something, and they want a horse, I'll be like, it'll be 1 gold. They could afford it, but it'll be almost half their funds, right? Stuff like that. Like, is a horse worth 1 gold? I have no idea. I have no idea. Realistically, in D&D world, I'm not really sure. But if it's like something that I didn't prepare ahead of time, I'll just be like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Horses are expensive here. Like, and then if they're like, that's ridiculous. Horses were 20 silver at the last city that I was in. I'll be like, inflation, supply and demand, but you can haggle. So, supply and demand. So you can always say, you know, excuses like that. Yeah. So then like you just keep the game going no matter what. If they say that's unrealistic, you'd be like, well, there was a shortage of horses, and there was a recent war that called for all the horses to be war horses, and now the only horses left for travel is these ones. Yeah, or they can steal it. You know, the players, if they want to, the players can get creative with it. But if they feel like that's like if they're like, no, I know that how the horses are usually about this much, then you'll just say some bullshit excuse and then have the players work for it. Yeah. Yeah, like there's an infinite amount of possibilities, and then they could be like, the players can be like, okay, so like I want to go to this area, but is it guarded? And you're like, shit, I didn't think about that. Yes, it's totally guarded. You know, don't say information that the players don't really ask about if it's not pertinent to the story, and don't think of those type of things if it's too much work for you. For me, I try to do as much prep as I can, but certain things I can't be bothered to because I'm like, then there's no end to the prep that I can do. You can create a whole world with D&D, even though like you can create a whole city to the nitty-gritty detail, but if the players will not go to all of them, so just set up some loose idea of like what that city's like. Is it bustling? Yes. Is it a port city? Maybe. If it's a port city, then let's trade. There's ships. There's water. That's about it, right? And then if it's like, oh no, it's a small city. It's on the way to. It's on like a crossroad. No port. It'll have to get you know, import from other places. It might not have its own economy that like so stuff like items. You won't get magical potions, but like in terms of how many people are there, how many buildings are there, you definitely don't have to think of that. You definitely don't have to think about how many cities have like taverns. Have the players ask, and then if you really want to like if you really don't know, just throw dice. It's like throw dice. Okay, the city has 3 taverns. one dinky one, one medium one, and one lavish one. Right? There you go. You're starting to build a city, and the players have none the wiser that you didn't prep this ahead of time. Ramses, thank you so much for 1 full year of membership to Lovely Coconuts. Thank you. You can prep every scenario in your head, and players will find a way to still surprise you, like the surprise of 1 year member. Thank you. Holy wait, it's been 1 year. Oh my god, we're gonna start having 1 year babies. So it's like Alternatively, you can have two relatively equal taverns right across the street or down the road from each other. The owners hate each other. It's a Romeo and Juliet. It's a Romeo and Juliet setting. So it's like, you know, if the players are like, okay, we're pretty sure, yeah, that we need this, then you could be like, okay, I'm gonna start planning this in my head while the players start discussing, discussing amongst themselves of what to do. So don't forget, the whole session that's being played out is still your planning. It's still your planning session too, because the more the players talk with amongst each other, the more you can do forward planning for their next actions, because they're obviously off course already. So don't worry, you'll still have time to prep and make things up while the session is going on, because the players obviously will be talking to each other. Your players will frequently go off on tangents of their own when they're discussing of what to do next. So that's your turn to be like, okay, it seems like they're going in this direction. I'll think of that. They might not go there, but I'll think of what I can do. Pull up some resources on the side just in case they might go there. I'll have a dragon on hand. I'll have a dragon encounter on hand. I'll have loot on hand in case they go about this way. But like it'll be on the fly, right? You could just be like, here, if they go that way, that's probably what I'll throw at them, and just put it off the side as you go like, yeah, okay. So is that where? Are you sure that's what you want to do, players? And then like if you're really in a crunch, just give them something really enigmatic. You could just be like, this is an ancient rune, and it seems like there's writing on the wall that you can't. It seems to be a language that's completely made up and not in any of the other languages, and seems to be magically protected. Or just like an NPC that looks suspicious but is obviously just like a man trying to go about his day, and you're like, a dark cloaked, like hooded cloaked figure is sitting across from you in a tavern, and then you just like start typing up. You know, so there are a lot of like remember that you can throw a lot of your players that won't kill them, but it'll keep them entertained for a bit as you plan things out. Older D&D versions even codified having players do more work. The party caller was apparently a player who relayed the party's decision to the GM once the party decided more time to scramble. Really? Wow. Yeah, nowadays there's like someone eventually decides amongst them, and then like the party like is like yeah, and then they'll tell the DM, so it's not a set person, but I see. Always question your life choices if the GM asks, are you sure? Yeah, you could be like, oh, you're going there? Are you sure? I mean, okay, yeah, it'll take this amount of days and this amount of prep, you know. Stuff like that. But yeah, there are things you could do to make them second guess themselves a little bit, and then they'll be like, wait. Let us talk about this for like 2 more seconds. So make sure you know that you will still have time to prep during the session. You will definitely have time to pull things up during the session. And if you don't, you can always blame the players. Like, I didn't expect you to do that, but hold on. If it really is going to take you a long time, you'll be like, okay, I have to admit something. I'll need you to go on a bathroom break. And you'll be like, I need you to go on a bathroom break. Or, you know what, I'm getting hungry. Let's get a snack. And then while they're grabbing a snack, you pretend like you grab the snack. You obviously aren't, because you're like, I need to punish myself for not thinking about this, and start typing up everything instantly. But yeah, those are little tricks that you can do. Next one. Okay, so these were all basically stuff that I think helps you prepare mentally. And the next things are stuff that I think might be able to help you, just like as a organizational type of thing, or like help you on your way to trying to create a session yourself. Yeah, Mojinova, thank you so much for the 10 months of membership to Lovely Coconut. Thank you. Wow, 10 months, please. No, I'm not gonna read that. No. This is a GM teaching session. There's no degradation involved in this. Okay. The next slide. So I think it might help you to set up a role hierarchy. A role hierarchy, and what I mean by this is figure out which rules you must know, and which are kind of preferable. Okay. It might be a little difficult on your first session, but suggestions for that work for me is no time flow of the whole, like, the system, right? Short rest, long rest, action duration, stuff like that. No combat or combat flow. Since tabletop RPGs, it's an RPG, there's going to be combat, whether it be a combat heavy session or a very combat minimal session. Most likely, a good percentage of sessions will involve combat, so know how combat flow generally works. For example, in D&D, everyone rolls initiative. Everyone has an action bonus and bonus action and free action. So know what those do, and then figure out each turn is 6 seconds, and there is movement involved in Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so those are like the basic combat flow, like basic combat, like what every person can do. So that goes down to character actions, what they can do and what they can't do outside and in combat. So for outside, how, like, think about travel, if they're supposed to be traveling, adventurers. If it's stuff like, if it's like a different system like Call of Cthulhu where there isn't as much traveling, you'll be like, okay, they'll be doing a lot of investigator skills. They'll be listening in. They'll be persuading NPCs. They'll be doing using library use. So I should prepare a library and resources for them to do research of, like, what are these events that are happening, you know? So how do they go about that? How much time will these actions take? You know, because in tabletop RPG, a day is not infinite, and knowing how to, like, set up the time flow of a session will help you make sure a session doesn't last forever. Make sure a session doesn't last forever. I think that helps the most in, like, keeping repetitive sessions going is when you can control the flow of time. So these are like the most basic rules that I like to try to keep in mind whenever I learn a new system. Is like is like time flow, combat, and what character actions. So that involves the character skills. For example, in D&D, I should know at least in the basics, what each class does. A cleric's a healer, right? A warlock is a magic user based off charisma, and they could use their magic their magic refreshes every short rest, right? A wizard is a magic user that needs to learn magic and have books and stuff where books and stuff to learn the magic, etc. Like, clerics need to prepare magic. Clerics can be healer. Okay, fair. Clerics can be a healer. Okay, they don't have to heal, but you know, I should have the basic premise of what each class does. At least the player classes, right? And you don't have to know every nitty-gritty detail of what everything does at each level, because that you can look up when they level up, which is which I would advise to save for the end of the session, just because that's like 30 minutes for some certain people. That's like 2 minutes for certain other people. So depending on the class and race and what levels they are at. yeah, that's not something you need absolutely necessary information during a session. Final comment. Oop. Oh my god, I forgot I had my sound and like okay, there we go. On speaker, so that alert scared me. I was like, what the fuck? I know, but thank you so much for the super. If I don't know and can't find a rule, I like to admit I don't know, so we'll use this thing I made up now and I'll look up the actual rule later. Yeah, like if there's a rule that I'm not sure about, I'll be like, okay, here's something temporary. I'll look it up later, but we'll go with this for now. And then from here on forth, like after I look it up, then we'll enact the official rule. I've seen too many people homebrew rules without actually understanding what they're modifying. Yes, if you're going to homebrew, know what you're homebrewing. True. Like for Call of Cthulhu, I like to homebrew a lot of the battle mechanics because I read through the battle mechanics for 6e, and I was or like the character creation for 6e, and I thought it was a little bit lacking in fun. Due to the fact that they made the character creation a lot more even, so you can't have as extreme of characters as before, which called for a really interesting and fun roleplay. So that I still kept to 5e. So in that sense, it's a little bit of a homebrew 6th edition. So it's so stuff like that. It's like if you're gonna homebrew, at least make sure you know what the exact rule it is that you're homebrewing. Yeah. A session is however long people can do at a time. Yes, I think for people it depends on the group. I know for a lot of people like that play with me, like VTubers, they need a pretty exact amount of time the session is gonna run for. So I try to like say that, and if you are able to do that and you're consistent with it, and of like how long a session goes for, then it makes people come back a lot easier, because then you know people like consistency. And so if you're gonna play like a session for like one full day, like a full Sunday, and that's your play session, yeah, it'll help to make it sure that you could plan a 10-hour long session. For me, I like to think 3 hours is the most ideal session length, but that's up to the players. But yeah, I think just generally time flow, being able to keep up, like, okay, all of these actions, you will spend this X many amount of hours. It helps with like generally getting a balance between battle, combat, and out of combat mechanics. And then you could slow it down for like in dungeon or like outside of dungeons and stuff like that. The longer you want the session to be, the harder they will be to schedule. Yes, I do agree. So for most important though, I would say yeah, time and combat flow, which go hand in hand. And then basic item and monster knowledge. For example, you don't need to know what every single item does, but you should have a general idea of like the basic items. Like, okay, there's a potion of healing. There's several potions of healing. There are certain things that could heal poison. There are bags of holdings, stuff like that. And then you could have like, there are certain items that are common, uncommon, rare, legendary, stuff like that. And things that are of legendary class, how hard are they to obtain? How hard are uncommon items to obtain? And how common or like how easy is it for people to get rare items? So having like a general idea of like how difficult each tier of item is probably enough. And like just going through the item like list in the dungeon DM guidebook of like, okay, here are some the most famous items, and just like having a read and knowing, okay, just remembering, oh yeah, there is an item for that. You don't have to remember the exact name of the item, but at least you know, okay, there was an item for that, and then I could look it up if it comes up or is relevant to this scenario. Same with monster knowledge. For example, basically a session, there is a set level to the characters, so they usually don't level more than once per session. Unless you're going to like doing wild magic with anime cliche wild magic, in which case they can level up 4 times in one go. There is actually a chance for them to level up 4 times in one go. But generally, that won't happen. So the difficulty level of the encounters will be set for a session. And so you can go through the monsters that will be approximately within that difficulty rating. So like in like combat rating. It's called combat rating in D&D. So each monster will have a CR. And you can look at that, and there is like a CR calculator online that you could use to be like, okay, I have 4 players at level 5. What's the general good challenge rating? Oh, challenge rating, sorry. What's a good challenge rating for a group that size and at that level? So there are challenge rating calculators with those, and and yeah, you could just like have backup like monsters, like make a table, make a list of like what kind of monsters they could possibly encounter, and so you have a little bit of like a shorthand list of what monsters would be good against them. And then if they go into like a dungeon that you didn't think about, then you could just like plop plop plop. Okay, here are the monsters that are residing in this dungeon. And yeah, look at the encounter tables. There's a ton of them online. Yeah, I just like do very impromptu encounters unless it's a major encounter, because my sessions usually don't tend to be that combat heavy. So yeah, these are the types of stuff that I would say are the basic necessities of what you should know. And then preferably know everything, know most of what happens with like a character. For example, you should probably know how and why a character would die and how to bring them back. That's I should have probably wrote that as in the character actions too. You should know the life and death of a character. That's another thing I will write down in the future. But you should probably know the mortality and how to save or forego said mortality for the players. That's another thing that you should probably definitely know when it comes to their life. But in terms of like preferable stuff to know, then it's like, okay, the general like ruling hierarchy of the area that they're in, the ruling class, like a little bit about them, a little bit about the monster, like I don't know, ecology. No, not ecology. The types of monsters that appear there, or like you can make that up though if your players aren't that lore heavy. So it's preferable, but it's not necessary, because in the end you can make bullshit up. Yeah, like the environment, like is it full of wolves, or is it full of goblins, or is it full of dragon wyverns? Like, does it make sense? Is there tension between this city and that city? Those are all like not necessary, but preferable. If you want to keep that session going for like a longer time, longer than one session, it's not a one shot, like a longer campaign. Those are the types of stuff that you can talk about, or like, okay, how do people get treated depending on how much wealth they have? That's very much something that's important in the D&D world, for example. And like yeah, those like there's a lot of there's no end to the information that you could learn. And then like that's information, not rules. For rules, everything else are more preferable. Like there's no I'm going off to ramble. See, this is oh god. Okay, here, information hierarchy. Okay, so think of the information hierarchy as kind of like building a house, right? Where do my stick go? There it is. So, which information must you know before a session, and which can you make up on the fly? So this is more of what I was talking about a few seconds ago. So for me, These are all suggestions, by the way. There's I'm obviously not the most experienced DM, so like GM, so there might be differences of opinions. But for me, I like to think of objective of the scenario, campaign / one shot. Like, what's the objective, right? I'll use my anime Wild Magic one as an example because it's the most recent and fresh in the minds of most people. For me, I pretty much knew what I wanted to do, which was a D&D one shot, and it's supposed to be a one shot. It's supposed to be a short, quick, a session that could be very, very short or 3 hours long at maximum. So I wanted them to be able to do wild magic in a very like crazy, fun, silly one shot. So I was like, okay, I want them to have a unpredictable, fun time that causes a lot of chaos because I want these VTubers to have a lot of fun and also make use of their love for anime. The genre time / place. So what if you're not doing the Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like the traditional sense. What if you're homebrewing the setting? What genre is it? Is it like is it horror? Is it a sci-fi? Is it still high fantasy? Is it modern day? At least to figure like the overarching thing down for that one. For example, my tabletop RPG session, the genre ended up being sci-fi. So remember that it's like sci-fi, so it's in the future, and then the place is in space, like on a meteorite colony. Key items if people don't need to be super detailed. Yeah, so like I'll come to that in a moment. But objective of the specific session is also another thing I like to try to keep in mind, because usually I do one shots, but sometimes I do have like before that I did have a session, like a campaign that went on for several sessions. So I wanted to also outline what the objective of this specific session is if it's longer than a one shot. So for example, do I want them to fight the dragon? Yes. Then I'll make sure that it's reachable within this session. I won't plan too many things that are outside of that because I want them to beeline straight towards a dragon. You know? So figure out what the objective is and work towards that. Or it's like, okay, I want them to escape from this mansion. So, and if it's going to be longer than that, I want them to at least figure out the mechanism that's causing them to stay kept within this mansion, right? So, and then like this one, I keep it a lot looser just because it can change depending on what the players end up doing. But if the players are feeling a little lost, at least have a backup to be able to railroad them towards a goal if the players themselves feel more lost. Then you like whenever they're like a little like, I don't know what to do, like what should I do? I'll be like, you can then be like, oh, there's a flyer that says there's a dragon wanted for lots of money and you are currently broke. Stuff like that. Basic geography and areas players can explore. So for here, it's like, okay, they're going to be in for D&D Faerun. What part of Faerun? They will be near I don't know, Baldur's Gate. They will be near Baldur's Gate. And they're so they could go travel to Baldur's Gate. Perhaps there's a dungeon near it. Okay, if they're going off to see, there's a port area. There's a forest that they can travel to. You know, it's not the most detailed. So it's more like, okay, here are key areas that like players can go to, and then have like a very basic description of like what these key areas are like. For example, the port area, full of drunk people, full of sailors. There's quite a few cats. Maybe it reeks. It's going to be bustling. Okay. The forest is going to be filled with bandits and filled with like owlbears. Very dangerous. Maybe there's a bandit hideout. Who knows? If they find it, I'll think of it when they find it. So very, very loose. I like to keep it flexible. Like keep maybe like one key thing that the player can find in like the more boring areas, like the forest, have a bandit hideout, so they might get hit by bandits if they're not careful. But you don't have to like plan too many things. Just at least, as long as there's like one interesting thing about each area in the back of your mind, then you know you're pretty good to like go with the flow once they decided to go to the said area. And then with that comes key items and people. So if there is a very key, like because you have that objective of the campaign and objective of the session, you want to have a few key items maybe that the players should probably get, or like key people that the players should probably talk to. So those people, like, just have like one-liners for them of like, oh yeah, so there's a king, king in the that they have to talk to get their mission. Possibly a corrupt king, but possibly a greedy asshole. Question mark. And then you'll be like, okay, that's the king. There you go. And then they'll probably the king. They might have like an assistant that the players will probably talk to a little bit more to get the information because the king is a little incompetent. So then it's like, okay, colorblind. A little bit more apologetic. A little, you know, yeah, definitely have been bullied by the king. Stuff like that, you know, like little one-liners. Then everything else you could kind of roll with. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, adventurers, we don't have all the data, but here's what we have so far on the mission and what we could possibly give you. Then you could kind of role play out the NPC to like a very, very basic level of like what they might say, what they might do. And then key items is like, okay, so they go to the dragon and they find a prisoner. That's a key item. Well, they might be a key person, but a prisoner is more of a key. I treat them more like a key item. And they could possibly find a little ring that has a like a family sigil. What could that possibly mean? A key is a key item as well. Yeah. So stuff like that, it's like, okay, I'll place them here, I'll place them here, I'll place them here. Everything else, I'll have like a list of like items that they could possibly find in an encounter, and then drop it in for like for rewards of encounters, or like if they really like tunnel vision into a room that I didn't expect the players to take interest in, then I'll be like, I'll throw in something. I'll throw in a little gem. It's like, why was that gem in there? You found a little brick that divoted, and it pulled. Once you pressed down to it, it popped out a little drawer with a gem inside. You know, shit like that. But that's but for the most part, those aren't key items in my opinion. Like, it could be a powerful item, and then if they're like, huh, I wonder why. But there's no other information to go off of. So if players fixate on it, and then for the next session, you could start writing a back lore to it. But for now, you could be like, oh, curious. A red gem. You found this red gem hidden within these walls. And you find nothing else. And then Spark Notes version of the overarching story, if there is one. Yeah. So it's a little different from the objectives of the campaign, because like story could be, you know, there. Not for every single, like, for example, one shots. You usually don't need it too hard. But if you have one, it gets easier to place in little Easter eggs that all overarchingly could tie to the story. For what I like to do is like a Spark Notes version of like the others, like one of the campaigns that I have done is that, wait, which one should I do it? The campaign that I was doing for Leora, my gen mate, the overarching story was that there is a whole exodus of the elves from the east to the west. And the reason for that is because there is a dark entity that is driving them out of their homelands. And that dark entity, I don't know, is in cahoots with the ruling nobles of Baldur's Gate. So that was it. That was the whole thing. that was the whole thing. Let me drink some tea. And also for the SparkNotes version, I say SparkNotes because you don't have to tell the players. I sure didn't. I sure didn't tell the players that there was a little bit of an overarching story. That's for them to find out. But yeah, think of it as, so the reason why I put a little like framework of a house is because think of it as like you create the base, the foundation of your house, and you create the framework. So like those are like the objectives, right? The framework, the base of the house is, the foundation is the objectives as genre, time, place as well. And then you create, so that's a blueprint of the thing. Then you create the framework of the house with like the basic geography, key items, and people, and the SparkNotes version of the overarching story, if there is one. And that's literally all you need. And once the session starts, the players will start building the roof. They'll start coloring the wall, like they'll start coloring the walls. They'll start putting adding rooms to that within that structure. They'll start decorating it. They'll start putting furniture in it. But it's not your job to set that for them, because let the players also be part of the building of that campaign, right? Let the players take part in the building of that house. They will do the interior design. You just have to be the architect. Reno, thank you so much for the gold tags. Thank you, Final Domain. Thank you so much for the gold tags. Thank you. So yeah, that's at least that's how I like to think of it. You will create the foundation, and and alongside you, the players will flesh out everything else. Like they will give out the ideas of like, oh, what kind of rooms this house will have, what kind of style this room will be decorated in, and then you'll just be the one doing that, putting everything in place. But they'll be the ones like giving you ideas, giving you requests, stuff. Yeah. NPCs don't gain dimension until they're given a name. Never name an NPC until the players ask. Yeah. Never name an NPC until the players ask. Literally me. Don't do extra work if the players aren't going to ask for it. So with that, I will go quickly over how I generally tend to prepare for my scenarios, which is because game system. Because I do three at the moment, which is Call of Cthulhu, Dungeons and Dragons, and Made Tabletop RPG, and I plan to add a few more to my roster next year. But out of that, I choose the system, and then I think of a premise. I create an elevator pitch. So an example would be the elevator pitch I gave for the anime one shot, which was, let me grab it. Let me grab it because it's still up there. Set in old classic high fantasy, let's make it anime. You're all isekai from the VTuber world and have modern digital world knowledge. With this, you also get a special power, of course. You may roll once per short rest, twice a day, a wheel of random magic that creates anime cliches from happening. Accidental ecchi, of course. Suddenly crisp, overpowered left arm, hell yeah. Falling in love with after bumping into a male protag with a chocobo in your mouth? You got it. You were summoned by the local king to defeat the dragon that has come to take the city and all its riches. They asked that you, glorious heroes, defeat the monster, but bro, you just got here, you're obviously level 5. Is that even good? Let's hope God and anime is on your side. So it's like an elevator pitch, right? You could basically go over the whole premise in 1 minute and be like, yeah, I think players will be interested in this. And now you have your SparkNotes overarching story. So I like to make an elevator pitch, because then you know what you're doing, the players know what they've signed up for, and you now you can start planning out like what do I need to do for that pitch, right? So I roughly estimate the length of the first session as well. I'm like, okay, to do all that on the shorthand, probably 3 hours. So I say, okay, it's a 3 hours. So then now you send the elevator pitch as well as the time frame to your friends, gather a group, schedule a date, giving 1 to 2 weeks to prepare depending on the scale of the scenario. And now I'm in a corner. I can't back out, right? Because we've all scheduled the time to do the sessions. So because there's that looming deadline for me, then I'll stop putting it off. So now I sit down and write out all the places the players can visit key figures. I then set up character creation sessions, set up yeah, I set up character creation sessions with each of the players to figure out, okay, what are they gonna do? What kind of stories, if they have any, are they planning to like carry out? What kind of personalities are they planning to bring to this session? Then I start setting up maps, encounters, and NPCs, items based on the player group dynamic. So because the anime group had a lot of clerics, a lot of paladins and a cleric, I was like, they don't need that many HP potions. They could handle quite a good smacking. So those are the type of things I thought about, and then I was like, okay, one of the characters is very loyal to royalty, so there will be a king. There will be royalty for sure. Yeah, and those are like the type of things that may or may not be swayed by the player group dynamics. So I usually don't really plan much until the characters start rolling in terms of like the nitty gritty of like encounters, important people. Yeah, I start like a general outline and like making a few maps, and then the character creation, and then fleshing out the maps and like which ones I should focus on all depend on the character creation sessions. And then I have backup rewards encounters that can be placed anywhere in a pinch. And with that, I'm usually set up for the session. So these are stuff I do for like one shots. A session 0 is often a good idea, having a talk about characters, type of the game, and so on, because then everyone is on the same playfield and then you know what to plan around. Yes, my session 0 for one shots tend to happen on Discord over text of like, here's what I planned. Here, if you have any questions, please please feel free to talk about it in this chat. And then during the character creation sessions, I go over it in more detail, and sometimes I'll have all the people be in one voice call if they cannot make it for the character creation, just so that everyone is aware of what kind of characters they're making. And I also make sure that they communicate at least the job, at least the job of what their character is, before the campaign, so that everyone knows exactly what classes are in a group. If it's a longer scenario, a longer campaign, what I like to do is create a session 0 for each player. So what I like to do is have a little character creation session, and then a day or two later, I'll have a session 0 where we go about role-playing out the way they go towards that party. So it'll be like, okay, so you find this out because your father died, and you get in the will you find out that there was a group that may have murdered him when you thought it was a natural cause, and so you go to this city where the will discusses meeting them last. You know. And then like, if that way, if new players want to join the said campaign, I also have a session 0 with them and figure out a way for them to for a segue for them to join the party. Yeah, so if it's a longer campaign, I have session 0s one-on-one. How long is the approximate time for session 0? 30 minutes, 1 hour, infinite? For session 0, I try to keep it within like an hour or so. It's not going to be too long, just because they're not gonna gain any specific, like, I don't want them to gain advantage over the other players by like, oh, I go through this battle and I gain this item, like really powerful item. No, you're just there to create a backstory and to create like the segue for you to join up with with the rest of the players. It's not gonna be very long. Yeah. So that, for me, at least, anyways, all of these are what works for me. If you want a session 0 with like lots of back story development and like solidifying what the player is working towards for that campaign, and it takes more than 1 hour, yeah, go ahead, go crazy. You know, that's for you and the players to talk about and agree upon before the session 0, because you know, you gotta make sure they block off that allocated amount of time. And last, and last but not least, run simple pre-made one-shots to practice. Practice makes improvement. I don't say practice makes perfect because there is no perfect, but start small and don't expect to be able to create your own version of Critical Role off the bat. I should, oops. And just do it, okay? In the end, you just gotta do the thing. Get players, set a time, force yourself into a corner, and do that one shot that you found off of the internet, and you're curious to do. You just gotta do it. You just gotta like put yourself. You just gotta like, you know, hold yourself accountable, set a time, and be like, that's the day. That no matter how much I'm scared, I won't say no. I won't back out. I have a date now. I have a time. I have to be there. So that is, you know, the last tip that I have for just getting over the fear of DMing, right? Just schedule it, okay? Get a group and schedule it, and then you'll be forced. You could put all the prefaces you want of like, this is just a practice lesson, like, you know, that's communicating with the players, setting up expectations, but just gotta do it. And finally, I put up some resources that helped me. So here are some resources for these ones are more for like starting up DMs or GMs, keepers that are very useful. For example, for D&D, there's D&D Beyond, which helps a lot in terms of like, if you don't want physical Dungeon Master books or like player handbooks, you can buy digital versions on D&D Beyond and use the character creation process and go through the item database and the monster database, etc. with D&D Beyond. It's a whole like online database that's that you can buy books and rule books from. As well, I think they also sell scenarios too. I like to keep physical books of the rule books. That's just my personal preference, but yeah, there is an online version for that if you really want. There's also DM's Guild and D&D Starter Set. So D&D Starter Set is also another official Wizards of the Coast item that you can purchase off of Amazon or like, you know, any game store or bookstore that has a scenario, a very, very beginner-friendly scenario called Lost Mines of Vandelver. And it has all of the maps, all of the encounter, description of the places. So that way you can see how a very professionally built one-shot, like, it's not really a one-shot, it's like a short like a really, really short campaign because it's a little long. If you play it out, it's a little long. So this is really nice if you want like a really good, solid, short campaign to get used to, because they will have all the information laid out. They would have figured out all the description that you just literally when the players enter an area, you just have to read off what the book says to describe the place. So it's incredibly beginner friendly. And then DM's Guild has a lot of one-shot, like free campaigns and one-shots for you to like download and use as well. So if you want like more than just like Lost Mines of Vandelver, I can't say for like how detailed it will be compared to this starter set one, but if you start off with this and you go towards this, I think you'll have a much easier time. And let's see. And then for Call of Cthulhu, which I generally use, is Chaosism. Chaosism is where you can purchase the digital PDF rulebook and lots of free scenarios, as well as paid for scenarios. So this one is your one-stop shop for Call of Cthulhu if you would like. If you don't want to buy the physical rulebook, or the physical rulebook is for some reason really overpriced in your region, which happened to me, so I had to buy the PDF. But you know, that's a different story. Did I? Chaos Isium. Oh my god, I misspelled the U. Okay, it's Chaos Isium. Okay, sorry. I typed it too fast. I forgot the. Okay, I typoed it. Don't worry about it. It's Chaos Isium. If it'll come up, it'll be the first thing you see when you type in Call of Cthulhu. I will edit it for my. I will edit it and post you know what I'll do? I'll link all of these resources in my description after the stream, and I'll link all of these on my description. It might just take a while, so I'll do that after the stream. So there's no typos preventing you from finding these resources. And then Pixiv Booth for Japanese. Like, if anyone is able to read Japanese, there's so many scenarios, like so many really well thought out and detailed scenarios on Pixiv Booth, because for whatever reason Call of Cthulhu is insanely popular in Japan. So they have lots and lots of scenarios. If you do happen to be a Japanese speaker or learning Japanese, you know, this is an actual amazing stop shop for Call of Cthulhu assets and scenarios, like everything. Yeah, Japanese tabletop RPG players just like use Call of Cthulhu as like a generic game system, even if the scenario has nothing to do with Cthulhu lore or like Lovecraftian lore. So just if you want some really silly scenarios and you know Japanese, Pixiv Booth is a great place. And then virtual tabletops, because as we all know, finding, you know, people locally may not be the easiest, or like meeting up IRL and having all of like the character sheets printed out, or like having a map drawn out, printed out, etc., may not be the easiest. So these are virtual tabletops that I've used in the past. I used to use Roll20 exclusively before, and it's amazing for the free, like the free version itself is like, this is free, right? Roll20 is like, the base is free. So if you want to try it out and get your foot in, I would say starting off with Roll20 is amazing, just because there's no initial payment that you have to do. You can just start and try it out. So it's not as padded. It's not as, you know, quality of life as Foundry, and it won't look as nice. It won't feel as nice. But Roll20 is more than sufficient if you want to start building out if you want to start getting your foot into that tabletop RPG world. This is a great place where you could use D&D, you could do Call of Cthulhu. They have other systems as well, so you just have to make a game, select the system, and go with it. And it's not too intense to learn, because they do have less tools than Foundry, at least at the free base level. So it's not too hard to learn. You could just drag and drop items, copy and paste. It's super easy. And then once you get used to this and you're like, man, I kind of want to like level up a little bit with my presentation, or like make things a little easier for myself and the players, Foundry, like if you're starting to get really overwhelmed by the amount of assets and like the amount of information that you need to keep on Roll20, then Foundry is, I would say, the way to go, because man, they have so many modules that you could add on to like make your life so much easier. Like they'll do like automatic like item trading, gold conversion that could be automated too. It's just, you know, there's an initial license fee of $50, and if you're playing with others that you don't trust to share your local IP with, you'll have to set up a server, and that's like $4 per month depending on the server that you buy. So that's another added price if you are doing tabletops with people that you are not super comfortable sharing your like personal IP with. So that's a little another caveat about Foundry. So I pay the $50 and pay for a server fee to host games on the Foundry. And then there's also Tabletop Simulator. If you happen to have this already, if you happen to have Tabletop Simulator already, then you can technically host tabletop RPG games on Tabletop Simulator. It's just, out of these two, the clunkiest. It'll probably take the most amount of work to set up, and it won't be as it will be really hard to do. But if you have it already and you want that like immersion of seeing like, you know, of a physical tabletop, if that is a must for you and you're willing to put in that work, yeah, I'll just put it here. Technically it's doable, but fucking Roll20 is out there free of charge, okay? Just make your life easier. There's Roll20, I'm begging. Yeah, it's a tabletop simulator. It's not a virtual tabletop, but like I just put it here because I do know there are players who, or like people who have hosted games on tabletop on tabletop simulator. I'm like, damn, that's dedication. I can see a tabletop gift me. Yeah, you know, some people really are attached to the physical like immersion of like tabletop RPGs. So, you know, it's there. I would highly recommend the other two, but you know, if that's one of the things that you really want, it is there. Same with like Tailspire, but that's also something that's like in the works and won't run as well. You can't run a game through there, but you can make the visuals through Tailspire and stuff like that. So this is kind of like here as an honorary mention, but not really honorary. So yeah, it supports 3D. Exactly, it supports 3D. That's basically the only pro for Tabletop Simulator. Anyways, here are some general like resources for assets. So when you're hosting a game on virtual tabletops, you're gonna need assets. Okay. For me personally, because I am I'm a corporate VTuber, I cannot use too many. I don't have a very wide source that I can use from, so I use almost strictly Illustrator, which is like copyright free as long as I list them. And then, but if you are not confined to streaming and monetization and copyright, there is a plethora of assets that you can take from, which is like from any Google images for your own like in games. But there's Hero Forge, which is great for like players to make their 3D like 3D figurines, miniature, and it's customizable. So you could just make it in Hero Forge and use that. You will have a 3D like looking like miniature of your hero off the bat if you use Hero Forge. And if you ever get so invested that you want to print out said miniature, you could do that in Hero Forge too. It's amazing. I never used it for me personally because I don't know when I would be able to like print out a miniature for like a campaign because I'm a GM. So, but in terms of like, you know, my other players that I've talked to, they love Hero Forge. So it can be 3D printed, and you'll have your very own character in the flesh. Token Vault. So Token Vault is like another character creation site, but it's for 2D. But you know, when you're using virtual tabletops, you need tokens on the map. So Token Vault is a really quick and easy way to make tokens that are customizable and fit your needs. And then DM Heroes is one for the players to also make portraits of said characters, or for yourself to make quick random NPC portraits. So DM Heroes is like kind of a random generator of like portraits. You could choose the race, you could they also have like little tidbits of like what are their quirks, what are their hobbies, and you could randomize that as well. So there's this is like a quick easy site if you need instant NPCs and you want them and a portrait of them as well, and so you could say a physical description to each NPC. Oh yeah, token stamp is great for turning any art into tokens. Ooh, nice. Also, DM could use a Hero Forge for major NPCs. That is true. Have I done that? No. I've only drawn them very quickly for my players, or use like Illustrator. just because I was like, I don't know if they'll meet them. Besides like DJ Lovecrafto, in which case I will draw them out. So yeah, for people who can't draw though, Hero Forge is a godsend for DMs as well. Yeah, I think I forgot. I don't use it because I usually tend to sketch them out. For music, as I said, because I am a streamer and I do have I am corporate and monetized, Dova Syndrome is usually the one I go to, even though I did hear there are some certain songs that do still get copyright claimed. Generally it's my go-to if I want like a atmospheric sound, but again, there are definitely other resources that you can use for your private games, like D&D sounds and tabletop audio, and then also, again, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. Those are all general places that you can get from. But there are certain tabletop sites that have tabletop-specific sounds. And Dova Syndrome, I know everyone uses it for background music, but they do have a sound effect category as well. So if you want like sound effects too, like Dova Syndrome actually do contain a lot of sound effects, so might be worth checking out too. Sirenscape is super premium. Oh yeah, these are all like more free. I mostly try to keep it within like the free like scape, just to keep it very beginner friendly. Since this is for beginner DMs, you know, if it's just you trying to start out, I want to keep the cost very minimal. Yeah. Yeah, don't do more work than you know you need. So again, these are only here if you really need it, but generally it's like you don't really need it. Also for maps, you will need some basic form of map, maybe possibly if you're doing like D&D. Call of Cthulhu you could get by without having like a map. You just have to describe the place to the characters, and then if they said, "Oh, does this exist?" then you'll be like, "Yes" or "No." So depending on how you DM, you can get away with not having maps, but I'm sure eventually it will be nice to have a map for you, or you will find a need for a map. Then there are quite a few resources for creating tabletop RPG maps. The one I like to use is what was it? Dungeon Scroll and Deep Night Games map editor. These two are the ones I usually use for creating the game maps. And where the players could walk around in and explore. So these two are really great for that. And now I use Foundry's Dungeon... What was it? Oh shoot. Dungeon Inc. I believe add-on... Draw Dungeon add-on module to create explorable maps on Foundry, but that's within the Foundry. And then if you want a world map, Incarnate is insanely pretty. If you ever need to make a world map of your own, or you want to like dabble in it, Incarnate is probably one of the best tools that you can possibly have. And then if you're willing to spend a little bit of money for like a really for like a beautiful map, Dungeon Draft will probably be the one for you. It does cost, I believe, It's not that expensive, but it is compatible. Last I checked, on it is on Steam. Wait, no, not on Steam. Sorry, it's on their site, Dungeon Draft, and it's compatible with several virtual tabletops. I saw that it was supposed to be compatible with Foundry, but the module to import is removed from the module site, so I'm not 100% sure about Dungeon Draft for Foundry, but it is Roll20 compatible. So if you want to create a dungeon with the fog of war and lighting and everything that figured out and import it into Roll20, you can do so with Dungeon Draft, I believe. Along with them, a few others. So this is a more advanced Dungeon Draft, but if you want a free... I should have reorganized this. I should have reorganized this so this one is here and Incarnate is at the bottom, since it's a little bit different in terms of what you get out of it. But yeah, these are some of the resources that I think are very useful to have, useful to know, and oh, I forgot to add, for assets, Pixif Booth. I put Pixif Booth here, but Pixif Booth here for assets as well. And I think even music they might have, but if you type in TRPG assets or tabletop RPG assets, they have so many not free to use, copyright free assets that you can buy and use, so definitely check that out. But yeah, these are what I generally tend to use as a DM, so I hope that helped. Does anyone have questions? Does anyone have burning questions that they would like to ask? Imagination is always the best thing to work with. That would be the whole point of tabletop RPGs. Yes, like these are all stuff that could help like people who don't, can't envision things in their brain, which they do exist, people with aphantasia. So these are incredible places to like go for if you want to assist your players who may not be able to imagine it in their brain. But yeah, imagination is also great. For world map is there's also Asgard fantasy maps. Ooh, do you think you will run Paranoia sometime? I do have the rulebooks, but I unfortunately misplaced the actual rulebook, and I have like player handbooks in my box of Paranoia. So I need to go out and find the Paranoia game rulebook, and then I'll go. I don't know where I misplaced it. I bought the full like set, like a 3-book set, and like the main one that I need is gone. So I'll look for that eventually, and try to do that. I want to do a Gen 3 Paranoia. Oh wait, no, not Gen 3. I want Amoria and Echo to be in a Paranoia session together. I think that would be incredibly fun. I mean, yeah. Paranoia is great. God, I love Paranoia. Sometimes I forgot rules exist in just waifu rules. That's Are you sure that's tabletop RPG? Question: how do you come up with a plot? You talked about a bit before, but I am curious about the thought process. I'm not a very narrative competent person, so I try to keep things very, very simple. I'll think, like, if I really can't think of something specifically Dungeons and Dragons, I'll try to take from other places. For example, for the anime one, I was like, yeah, isekai, you get a random power, and so I was like, hey, wouldn't that be great for a one shot? So that's how I came up with that. And then I'll be like, okay, they need to go on a very, very cliche hunter dragon mission. And so I came up with that as a guideline. And then the little nuances part I thought up of the hour before the session. But in terms of like other short scenarios that I've done, it's more like, okay, And I'll come up with like the main objective. The main objective for them is to win in an idol concert in a Call of Cthulhu. So how would I make that interesting? I should make the Cthulhu, like certain Cthulhu eldritch horrors into idols competing in the same competition too. Okay, there's something. And then I'll be like, how do they butt heads? You know, how will the eldritch horrors get in the way of the players fighting for the top idol position? So those are like, I think about the objective first, and then I think about what are the obstacles that the players could face that'll make it interesting. So that's how I go about making stories. Just come up with a really, really simple point A, point B. And then I'll be like, okay, there has to be one main obstacle that's interesting for the players to encounter. For example, a little bit of a twist, a little bit of like a, whoa, I didn't expect that. And then everything else I'll create as I go. Yeah, create goal, create hurdles. But one main hurdle and then little like small, a little, I would say, think of like one big, maybe like 2-3 mediums, and then, or I would say 2 mediums, like to start off with, and then like the smaller ones you could throw in every so often when you think the session is getting a little stale. So think of one big main one, maybe a sub hurdle, but yeah, that's how I usually go with. As long as it's not like all the same level of like intensity hurdles, it should be good. As long as you know, okay, a dragon is a big hurdle. A little bit of like goblins here and there. That's like minor hurdles, you know? A whole NPC backstabbing in the back. That's a pretty like mid-ish sized hurdle. So those are the kind of things that I think about. And then like also later down the line, a different session, you could change medium nuance, medium annoyance that the players faced in the previous session, and blow it up to a huge ass hurdle eventually down the line. Yeah, but like for a one-time session, concentrate on like one big one and then like a few minor ones, and then like balance it out. Yeah, just a little seasoning for taste. A little sprinkling of goblins here and there. Just put a mimic and we are good to go. Yeah, it also helps to keep in mind what your antagonist's goal is. You can so you can gauge how they might react to that PC's actions. Yes, so having like one main antagonist to concentrate on is good. For me, I like to keep one main one and one shadow one. I like to keep one main one and one shadow one. So it's like, you know, mid-boss versus final boss type of deal. So that's another way I like to keep things a little more interesting. Like, perhaps what you're looking at isn't, you know, the big baddie. What if you're getting thrown off course? What if they're manipulating that baddie to go in your way, to keep eyes off of their own schemes? Oh, do you hate that one minor NPC too bad he's a demon king now? It's like, oh, you thought, or it's like, oh, you thought this NPC was the nicest and you love that NPC? Oh, I'm gonna make a whole ass backstory to them now of how they're going to backstab you. Stuff like that. You know, it's like, they don't have to be there from the initial planning, but you could definitely build depending on how the players react to certain information. For example, at one point, one of the players in one of my campaigns, they got fixated on this like statue, a dragon statue, and they're like, why why is there a dragon statue here? And then they found a carving in the back. And I'm like, oh my god, there's a carving on the back. And I gave them a really cryptic message, and they're like, we have to figure out what this means. We have to figure out what this means. So then I created a whole campaign that like that trailed off into a whole cult based off of Red Dragon, etc. So, and that was not something I planned for initially. So you don't always have to make the story like overarching story. That's why I put it as like the very bottom. Hello. So it's not too important. You can get by with just point A to point B. But subquest, free tabletop RPG now, exactly. Hot take, milestones are better than experience. Easiest way to prevent murder. Yes, I also agree. I also agree. Milestones are so much better than experience. Like, for me personally, I think it's easier. They both have their different uses though. For like the anime one, I did use experience just because certain characters can, like certain triggers can happen in the anime cliche that would call for experience being the better alternative. So to a point, experience does have its uses. Milestones are easier on the DM by far, but feel pretty crappy to the players. I would say it depends how you use the milestones, because it kind of makes sense from like, not like a classic RPG style, but like just in general in the real world, like certain milestones are like defeating a thing would cause the people to like level up as a person, you know? So it depends on how you do it. Milestone. Like if your DM is like really like throwing so many small combat at you and only level you up after like doing a big encounter, then you're gonna be like, why am I fighting these for? So it really depends on like how the DM uses it. I would say like after like a few encounters, you can be like, okay, you've gotten enough now. Let's go level you up at the end of the session. So in that sense, milestones I also think help like to keep the flow of the game going, just because then you could be like, okay, now that you've completed this session, you're definitely rewarded with an level up. So you all can level up your characters now, ask me any questions, and then for the next session you'll be ready. So I think in that regard, it's also a little easier for the DM to like pace things, as well as for the players to be able to level up at their own pace. But yeah, it really depends on the group. You could ask them what they prefer, and then work with that. But for me, I think it's just a little. It helps keep the flow going a little bit better. Yeah. It's like concept like experience only for combat is massive misconception. The XP is for resolving situations. The resolution happens in many different ways. Yeah, but then like that, I don't. Is there experience like equivalent of like non-combat in the rulebooks though? Because then it really is up to the GM. You can have a CR on social encounters. I see. Then yeah, you definitely could. I think yeah, a more seasoned DM would be better with experience. For me, I'm not that seasoned. For me, it's better for me if I do it via milestones. Only if you do experience middle of session. See, then I'm like, isn't that similar to milestone then? Isn't this similar to milestones then? I think in the end, they both feel good depending on how the GM works with it. I think whether it's experience or milestones, it really just depends on the DM and what they're better working with. So I think that is very subjective to each group and the and the DMs. So I think it's great that the rulebooks have both systems in place. That way, one could use the other, like whichever fits their DM style better. I've been DMing for over 10 years, and just doing level ups when the story would call for them works for me. Yeah. Like, again, I think it's whatever works for that person is the best option for them. Because again, both are provided for a reason, and not one or the other is replaced. So I think they both have their pros and cons. For me, Milestone works way better for Milestone is players are 100% at the mercy of the DM. I think so, but if there's a trust between the players and the DM, for example, wait, you said Milestone is players are 100% at the mercy of the DM, but also said experiences players are at the 100% at the mercy of the DM. So either way, they're both at 100% at the mercy of the DM. But it's, yeah, again, I think it really, like, as long as the DM is capable of being like, okay, they've gone through enough to be okay to have a level up, then it's good for me. Because, like, for me, I like to control the pacing of the season's campaigns too. Because, like, sometimes XP, I'm like, damn, they level up so fucking slow. I'm like, they level up so fucking slow. Oh my god. So with milestones, I level them up way faster than with experience. I'm just like, yeah, you take a level, you take a level, you all take a level. But I pad it out so it's not like they get levels upon levels and not, master that level first. But still, I'm just like, damn, the level up is sure slow. But anyways, yeah, that's a joke. Players are always at the DM's mercy. DMs can't keep getting away with this. Yeah, exponential XP is hilarious. Earning no XP in a session is an indicator to players that they're doing nothing. That... I think that might be a good indication if, like, the... Again, if the DM is really good with, like, encounter experience. I never thought of it that way. I always make sure that the players are very conscious of when they're doing nothing, because literally they're not moving from one spot. It's pretty clear for the players when they're not doing anything, at least in my sessions. So I never had to resort to that for my own sessions. So I think this is very much up to preference. Very, very, very much up to preference. Also, like, I do mostly one shots. So usually I don't have to work with levels, experience, or milestones. And I like it like that. Because to me, levels and levels and stuff is too much. I'll be like, here's a one-shot D&D. You're this level. Okay, thank you, bye. So that's my personal preference of DMing. So run Call of Cthulhu where your player characters have to roll new characters every 20 minutes. Lol. Yes, I'm just like, here's a character. You're never gonna level. You may level up a skill by gaining a point or two, but you're never gonna level. The more you use this character, the more they're gonna likely drop dead. So use that with, like, use the character multiple times at your own expense, but they'll get worse. Question: my manager is an old school player and told me about this role. Players earn experience levels based on gold spent. What do you think? That's interesting, but really depends on the scenario, I would say. Because, like, what if they're on a long journey and then, like, there's no real place for them to spend money or need to spend money? In which case, are they doing that long journey for no reason? You know? That was an OG D&D system. be honest, in my campaign, I totally abandoned the XP system. I prefer voting levels when needed for new encounters, balance, good rolling. Yeah, like, I think for each DM, they have their own... their own... their own preference. Only the rich get to level up. Yeah, I guess so. It's pay to win. Literal pay to win in Dungeons and Dragons. The concept was that having money meant they would get better equipment / better training / food, etc. I think it probably made sense of the older systems, the literal pay to win, because you have to fight in order to earn gold. But what if they like kind of like gamble and earn gold? You know, maybe, yeah, I would find ways to extort it and have a game where the players try to extort it the most in the most efficient way possible. I mean, it sounds like fun in its own way. It sounds like fun in its own way. But I would probably like revolve a session around that concept instead of using it for as a norm. Zolta, thank you so much for the super. The best rule for all DMing: do what works for you and the players. It's all a group effort in the end. Yeah, it's all a group effort in the end. Always communicate with the players because they are very much part of like the ones building the session with you. And if they're not having fun, are you really having fun? Are you having fun making people miserable? I mean, there may be some people like that, but perhaps you will run out of players. Sweet if that's the case. You'll probably run out of players very, very quickly if that's the case. So, I teach math, that's your answer. Oh god. I liked math when I was in school. I had fun. I had fun doing math. Imagine bribing the DM with IRL money. Oh my god. Why do you need to bribe the DM with IRL money? What kind? You know, as a sadist, player agony is my pleasure. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But yeah, like I like to for me, the way I DM is probably not very similar to a lot of people. So always take what I've said with a grain of salt. With a grain of salt, and do what works for you. Do what works for you and your players. It will really depend, but hopefully some of the stuff that I went over will help you get through that initial hurdle. The whole talk about milestone experience, that's for you to figure out once you try at least one session and figure out what you like. So don't worry about any of the stuff that's said so far about XP and milestone. You do not have to worry about that. We were just it was just a bunch of the older GMs talking and like talking about our preferences. So question, could you remove the DM from the game? Is it possible? I think there are certain scenarios that are written to be DM-less. But in a sense, you would have to have the sub-DM/player who, like, you know, flips over the information to see what comes next. But it will have to be written by someone else. Like some game systems do allow for it. D&D, it's a little bit difficult because there would be like, you know, the scenario would have to be prepared. But there are other game systems where they make the system call for like compatible with no DMs. There's like solo tabletop RPG systems as well. Excuse me. So, for D&D, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to find like a scenario that's written for it. So it might be just easier to find a different game system, tabletop RPG that is made for that. There's some games that don't have GMs, but those are very radical in design. Yeah, it's probably going to be pretty different to look into journaling tabletop RPGs. Yeah, I never tried them though. Because I'm not as good of a player. I'm not a very good player. That's why I enjoy the being a great game master, because I'm like, I'm not a great player, but I sure do love like instigating shenanigans to happen. So for me, it's like, but your luck is great. No, see, the luck isn't the important part. The more important part is like, if I'm given certain instructions to follow, I generally tend to follow it without deviating too much, or like thinking too. I kind of go on like a mindless follow instruction mode. So in the end, I kind of lose out because of it, because I don't go out of my way to like figure stuff out, or like figure like like I kind of take the backseat in when it, like I kind of let other people do what they want to do first. So in the end, I kind of lose out, and then I kind of feel like, oh, I kind of I'm not really powerful, or I didn't get too many, like I'm not really helping with the team because I didn't go out of my way to like do certain things. So it's like I get it, you're lawful neutral. So yeah, so I'm not a very good player. So and that's what I meant by I'm not a very good player. Where I end up like not being able to have as much fun as I probably could have, you know? Yeah, I tend to get a little too quiet and lose out on stuff. Yeah, basically. So yeah. You know what they say, the wheel that the gear that like whines the most gets the most oil type of deal. Yeah. So I was just like, it's not like, and then like I can't change my personality to compete for the spotlight either. So I was just like, you know what, why don't I just DM? Because then it's more beneficial for me to be quiet and let the players pick the spotlight, right? And if I do see someone who tends to be a bit more quiet that isn't going for the spotlight, then I could try to like help them, because I'm that type of person. The player who whines the most gets the boo. I tend to be quieter unless I'm with a group of new players, then I'll step up and guide things more until people get comfortable. Yeah, so like I found I do find myself liking guiding, liking being the guiding role most of the times too. So I was like, oh, then I might as well just be a GM. How do you handle given different players the right type of attention? It's I usually try to enforce with the players that if I want them to be quiet, that they need to listen to me and let me speak. Which most of the players that I do DM are very, very respectful. So they will definitely like hush down when I start talking. So that's when I'll be like, oh, hey, so-and-so, do you have something you want to do? Or like if I heard that they were trying to speak but they got talked over, I'll be like, oh, what did you have to say? I heard, and then make sure that everyone gets to be able to say what they want to. Obviously, I'm not perfect, so I may miss that sometimes, but I try to do my best to bring forth people who missed their chance to talk. Some players, meanwhile, want their time in the spotlight and will get grumpy if they feel neglected. I try to make sure to sniff out players that would want to hog the spotlight and not share. I try to make sure I don't get to players that want to do that, you know, just because I find it disrespectful to the other players. So so I do try to be careful in that regard. Main character syndrome is a real thing. Yeah. I do try to make sure that, like, you know, everyone knows I do prioritize fairness as much as possible. Some players unfortunately feel their main characters they want to be overpowered and protagonists and not a member of the team. Yeah, but you generally get that feeling when they're making the characters, so then you'll be like, okay, hey, I'm just gonna confirm with you, but I just prefer to be the eminence in the shadow. I still have to watch that someday. But anyways, hopefully these did help you. I will end the stream now so that it's not too much for newer DMs to newer possible GMs to watch and get a little bit of boost to try it out. Hopefully, please let me know if you do end up trying it out, especially with this stream, in the comments or somewhere. Let me know, because I would be very happy if this was this could help you step that one step foot towards trying it out at least. You know, you don't have to end up loving being a DM. You don't have to end up like continuing it, being like, okay, I tried it, it wasn't really for me, but at least I tried it, you know? If it did that, I'll be incredibly happy. So I will end the stream now. Let's see if there's anyone we can raid into real quick. Oh, there's a lot. Oh, wait. Okay. There's a lot. Wait. Okay. I'm going to raid into Actually, there's some there. Okay, I'm gonna raid into a tabletop RPG based stream. Since, you know, we talked about being a DM. So I will see you all tomorrow. And that will be the drawing stream with starring Leora as a guest. So I will see you all then. Kokone. Bye bye.